Okay, we're on page 1111 talking about the advantages of using a ticketing system. So there's a lot of ticketing systems out there, but let's just talk about some of the common functions that they can do. They can tell you the number of open tickets that you have, right? The average time it takes to complete a ticket, the productivity of each member. In other words, Bob's only been able to complete 6 and Sally's doing 12. Okay? The percent of rotting tickets, those tickets that are just out there for a really, really long time. Workload distribution. I mean, do I need a night shift? How many of these calls are coming in? That kind of stuff. So ticketing systems typically provide all that kind of stuff. One of the most important parts of a ticketing system is when you assign a task to a person. The ownership of the task is probably the most important thing. This ticket is assigned to Bob. Bob knows it and everyone else knows it. That only Bob is working on this guy. Okay? You can't say, well, I didn't know I was supposed to be doing that one. Well, bullshit. It was assigned to you in the system. You got the ticket. It's your responsibility. If you're not doing it, then nobody else is, and we're going to have to fire you. Kind of sort of important. User acceptance. A lot of these things are kind of web-based. You could do it from home. You don't necessarily need to be at the company to be able to submit a ticket, that kind of thing. For example, at the university, ours is called a CIS-Aid. I can submit a CIS-Aid ticket from my house, or I can submit a CIS-Aid ticket from the classroom, right? Same kind of a thing. There's lots of examples of open source ticketing systems that are out there. So one that I've kind of sort of used a lot is Bugzilla. So Bugzilla is one of those things where it's kind of sort of web-based. You don't have to have it web-based. You could have it, done. And it keeps track of all this stuff. And let me just give you an example of one. So I've got one here somewhere. Oh, I guess I don't. Doggone it. I hate it when I do that. Okay, whatever. Bugzilla is a pretty good one where you come up with, a ticket description, the title, who's assigned to, and all the rest. And every time somebody touches it, it adds another block to it. And so Bob says, okay, I think we got it. And, then the next one says, no, we don't. And the next one says, okay, we tried this. And, it's a running list of all of the stuff. It's pretty cool. I know where it is. Okay, hang on. Yeah, here's one that I'm familiar with because I was one of the ones who actually submitted a bug for this. This is talking about a bug in a particular browser and, how it got fixed. So this was a Firefox bug that I found where I was trying to work with a digital certificate and it didn't work. So anyway, this is an example. It talks about, the tracking and who did it and then all the rest of this stuff about, here's what I found and here's what it takes to do it and here's all the stuff and so on and on and on. This is a great system of coming up with, the evolution of what happened. And so he basically said, okay, I can prove that it's in version, 59, 60, and 61, And so finally they came up with a new version that actually fixed it. So finally, in Firefox 61, they actually got it moved over to fixed. Hooray! Cool. All right. So that's a kind of cool way. Okay, there are some commercial ones out there, and the one I've seen most is called Remedy, a Remedy ticket. Zendesk seems to be one that's kind of people like nowadays. And I will tell you that generally speaking, everyone hates their ticketing system. Okay, it's not really a reflection on the ticketing system, not really. But some of these things, like the Remedy one, it was difficult to move a ticket to another person. Like, okay, I need to be in the hospital, so all of my tickets need to be dispersed to other people while I'm gone. And so when I come back, I get put back into the queue. Some of those make it incredibly difficult to do that, and others, oh sure, no problem. This person is out for whatever reason. We'll disperse their tickets, and you just tell me where you want these tickets to go. Kind of a thing. Anyway, I'm just telling you, if you ever talk to service desk people, they're always going to be cussing out their ticketing system, regardless of whether it's the best ticketing system in the world. They all hate them. I'm just saying. Okay, maybe not for real reasons, but that's beside the point. On page 1115, they talk about local documentation. You never should have like a single person who has the answers to everything. You might think, well, I'm very important. I'm the single, I'm the person who knows the most about this system. Yeah, but if you get hit by a bus, well, then that's basically a single point of failure, isn't it? Isn't it likely that you're going to leave one day, or you're going to get a better job, or you're going to get hit by a bus, or you're going to have to take a vacation, aren't you? Well, then you ought not be hoarding that information. One of the stories I like to talk about early on, I was writing this application on this ancient machine, and I had to go to the supervisor's office to get the book, the programming book. And so every day I'd go to the supervisor's office and get the book and sit down and do my thing, and then I'd give the book back. And finally, after about 3 days, I said, why do you keep this locked up in your office? I mean, it's just a book. Why don't you just leave it out here for everyone to use? And she said, I don't want my employees to know more than me. Wow. I couldn't believe they said that. So, yeah, don't be that person, okay? We used 3-ring binders. Every server had a 3-ring binder. And inside the 3-ring binder was the install media, the passwords, the product keys, the activation keys, a text description of how the disks were set up, and all that kind of thing. So our little 3-ring binder, passwords, license codes, configuration instructions, basically step by step on how it would take to rebuild this guy. Where do you store your information? Let's say you've put together a fantastic document that describes how to restore a system in case it failed from scratch. Do you store that as a Word document on the server? Really? On the server. The one that says, the document that says how to rebuild a server if it fails. And you're storing that on the very server. It's got to be in print. Okay, I'm just saying, you've got to print these things out. Now, in theory, these 3-ring binders were kind of significant. It had a lot of security related to them. And so we put them in the server room because they were close to the server and had the same security. And maybe that wasn't a smart idea, because quite frankly, maybe I should have had some different security on that. Okay. Environmental considerations. So you ought to have separate environments. You ought to have a dev environment, a testing environment, a production environment. Never attempt to fix a problem directly on production, okay? You don't say, well, I think this will probably fix that problem. Let me just go to the SQL Server in production and we'll just crank this little value up. Drink! Don't do that. Try it out in the test environment first. Don't ever mess with the production environment directly. So you need a dev and production separation, probably even 3. You need a separate dev, a separate testing, and separate production. In my world, I use virtual machines to do that. That way, I had 3 separate machines and I wasn't actually taking up any space, so to speak. No physical server deployment. Disaster management, page 1119. Yes, there's some sort of a risk assessment. You need to know about the natural disasters. Do I have an earthquake and fire and flood and tornado and all the rest of that stuff? I need to be planning for, power and network outages. No, one of the things you can do is just ask people in the area, hey, okay, for example, I'm building a new house. I could go to somebody who lives across the street and say, how long have you guys been here? And, oh, we've been here for 5 years. Well, how often do you get power outages? And the guy says, oh man, every time there's a lightning strike anywhere in the neighborhood, we lose power for, 5 minutes at a time. I go, okay, right? So you need to kind of know that stuff. Hardware and software failures, how do you plan for those? And then, of course, humans, because humans are the really, really big part of, risk, because humans are going to do something stupid. They're going to, shut things down wrong. They're going to have security breaches, and about 30%, somewhere between 30% and 50% of security issues are people on the inside that are either stupid, apathetic, or angry. Okay. So I need a disaster recovery plan. Now, I don't particularly like that term, disaster recovery plan, because when you talk to management, disaster recovery plan in their mind sounds like insurance. Like, well, I already have fire insurance. It's like, no. This is not what that is. This is a business resumption plan, okay? A business recovery plan. This is the plan that says we are going to continue to make money while this disaster is ongoing. That will get their attention. Disaster recovery, it'll be like, oh, that's boring technical stuff. But you say, no, 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 no. This is how we're going to continue to sell our products and make money. Ah, their eyes are going to light up. Ding. So don't call it a disaster recovery plan. I'm going to skip a bit. Policies and procedures. Often the policies and procedures come from the top, they're top down. Management decides to do something, like, no watching porn on the company computers, that kind of stuff. Or your password length has to be such and such. So, it's very likely the senior management is not going to have a strong IT background, right? It's likely. And so you probably need to have some people talking to them and making sure. You have to have some sort of IT governance body that talks about these things so they don't just go off and go crazy. So the next thing we need to talk about is the difference between policies and procedures. So a policy is like a rule. A policy says you must do this. For example, your password must be complex. That would be a policy/rule. A procedure is the steps you need to take to be able to accomplish that. So policy says you need a complex password, and the procedure says, okay, I need to have 2 lowercase, 2 uppercase, 2 symbols, 2 numbers, right? And whatever, 12 characters long or whatever the thing is. Okay, kind of makes sense. So the difference between policies and procedures is not that complicated, is it? I'm going to skip over a bit and go to 1125, talking about service level agreements. So an SLA is sort of like a contract that basically says that you're obligated to provide these services. So let's say, for example, that I have a maintenance SLA for my servers. Okay? So I'm paying this company to be responsive to me, and maybe in my SLA it talks about response time. When I call them and say, I've got a server that the power supply just went out on, then there probably is something in the SLA that talks about the response time, how long it takes for them to show up on site. And is it in the middle of the night? Is it a weekend? Maybe there'll be different rates, for that. But we're talking about, responsiveness, that kind of thing. And includes some compensation if they don't meet the agreement. In other words, if you don't show up in the 4-hour window it says in the SLA, well then that means I'm going to get money back at the end of the month when I come to pay your bill. Okay? So you're trying to make it so that the fee incentive thing is strong enough for the company to do the right thing. You don't want the fees to be too little, because then they could say, well, screw it. I'm going to have to pay this guy overtime in the middle of the night to come out there, but I'm only going to get, the penalty for not being on time is only $20. It's going to cost me a heck of a lot more than that, so screw it, right? So it has to be structured so that they have the incentive to do the right thing. So, response times, house calls. Are they going to come out to your location, or are they going to attempt to remote everything? Perhaps there's going to be a supported list of operating systems and software and hardware. Right? These companies are not going to be signing up to do absolutely everything. Maybe they're the ones that are going to be doing your backup and retention, retention for your backups, things like that. So that would be kind of interesting too. Okay, so the whole idea of an SLA is to make sure you get what you pay for. And it's very important that your legal folks take a look at this thing to make sure that when you contract for services, whatever it is, you're getting exactly what it is you want. Okay, we're coming up on the 15-minute mark. We only have a little bit more to go, so we'll probably finish this in just a little bit.